Are you ready for phenomenal thought leadership from the most well-respected leaders in industry? Join us for stellar conversations and sound advice from trailblazers who have a passion for excellence. Learn best practices that will catapult the culture of your company into a new level of greatness. Welcome to Great Companies, Great Leaders. Your host is Christine Gannon. Hello and welcome to another edition of Great Companies, Great Leaders. I am so honored today to host Michelle Seiler Tucker. Michelle, welcome. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you, Christine. Thanks for having me.
A little bit about Michelle this morning. She's the founder and CEO of Seiler Tucker Incorporated. She holds the M&AMI, which is Mergers and Acquisitions Master Intermediary title, as well as the Certified Mergers and Acquisitions Professional and Certified Business Analyst title. Michelle also owns other businesses in several different industries. She's a 20-year veteran in the mergers and acquisition industry. She's regarded as the leading authority on buying, selling, fixing, and growing businesses. She and her firm have sold over 1,000 businesses in almost every vertical and have a remarkable track record of success. Exciting news, she recently co-authored a book with the amazing Sharon Lechter called Exit Rich, which is an awesome roadmap for anyone with a business. And too many entrepreneurs push off planning the sale of their business until the last minute. But Michelle says for a business to sell, what it's really worth, or even more, owners really need to prepare for the sale of their business from the very start. Michelle, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
How did you choose this career path? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's a good question. Everybody's like, did you wake up one day and say, oh, I'm going to be an M&A advisor? I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always owned many different businesses and different verticals. I knew from a very young age that I was going to do something entrepreneurship wise. I was going to be a writer and I would always be helping people. Those are my three passions: entrepreneurship, writing, and people. And so I've owned many different businesses. I did start a franchise development, franchise sales, franchise consulting company. And I was equity partner with different franchisors. And I did everything from start to finish for these different franchisees. And then I had so many existing buyers approach me and ask me for, do you have an existing business that they didn't want to buy a franchise? And I kept saying, no. But, I love Napoleon Hill Foundation. I love Bob Proctor. I believe in law of attraction. And I'm like, why am I saying no? I should be saying yes. Right. And basically, that's how I decided one day to start my mergers and acquisitions practice. And that was a little over 20 years ago and over 1,000 deals ago.
Congratulations. Let's talk a little bit about that. What are the different types of businesses and why is it important to know which kind you own?
Yep. So there's a lot of different types of businesses. And I think it's important because if you don't know what you own, how are you going to know where you want to go or what you want to grow,
Right.
So you really need to be crystal clear on the type of business that you own and what direction you want to go in as an entrepreneur. There are a lot of individuals that own what I call lifestyle businesses. And those businesses are 1,000% dependent upon the owner. Mm-hmm. And then, that's stay at home. That could be stay at home moms. That could be stay at home dads. And they're really working their business around their lifestyle. And that's great. That's okay. But they're not sellable.
Right.
And then there's those businesses where I call kind of one man, one woman show businesses where you have, let's say it's an insurance appraiser. He doesn't have any employees. Or let's say it's a dentist. I just had a dentist the other day and you think, oh, a dentist has a business. No, not necessarily. It was one dentist, been in business for 50 years, 3 dental hygienists, and a dental hygienist are his daughters.
Oh, wow.
And I said, look, I can sell your business, but I can't maximize value.
Right.
Because you are the business, your family is the business. And I said, the purchase price is going to be contingent upon you and your daughter staying on for 2 to 3 years. He said, well, honey, we're not staying. I said, well, then honey, you're not selling. When you leave, the patients leave. Right. So, that's dentists, that's interior decorators, that could be chiropractors, that could be a plumber, that could be an electrician, that could be, all kinds of different businesses where it's really The business is 1000% dependent upon the owner. And then you have small businesses like coffee shops, ice cream stores, small restaurants, dry cleaners, things like that. And the business is still dependent upon the owner, 1000%, but they have some employees. And then you kind of move into middle market where it's a larger business. They've been in business for many, many, many years. Maybe they have 50 to 100 employees. And then even larger businesses than that, 300 employees and up. And that's kind of, there's also a quiz that you can take at Seiler Tucker Academy. And the quiz is, what type of business do I own?
That's fantastic. We'll put that in the notes on YouTube so people can link to that. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see business owners making?
Yeah, there's so many mistakes. One of the biggest mistakes, Steve Forbes says 80% of businesses won't sell. That's 8 out of 10 companies.
Wow. I haven't heard that.
That's a startling statistic.
It is.
Right? And most people, when I say that, they don't say, wow. Like you said, wow.
Yeah.
Most people, when I'm on their podcast, are like, oh, well, what do you mean? Oh, that's a huge wow, because that's a startling statistic that's facing baby boomers who have poured their heart, their soul, their money into their business and make huge sacrifices along the way. Only 20% of them will sell. So the biggest reason for that, one of the biggest mistakes business owners make is they don't think about exit strategy. They don't think about planning their exit until a catastrophic event occurs, whether that's internal or external or health issues, partner disputes, divorce, death. External is this pandemic we're in.
Right.
And the worst time to sell your business is when you're in the middle of a catastrophe, because your business is trending downward, it's not doing well, and you're going to end up probably exiting poor, not exiting rich. So the best time to sell your business is when it's in its prime, when it's doing well. But the problem is business owners don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. So in Exit Rich, I take all of my readers through what I call the STGPS exit model. It's kind of like Stephen Covey says, start with the end in mind. So I take them through the STGPS exit model where they're really planning their end from the beginning. Yeah. Saying, okay, this is my destination. So many business owners don't even have a destination.
No.
They don't know where they're going to end up. So that's one of the biggest mistakes that they make, is not planning.
And I think this goes for leaders as well, honestly, because I think a lot of leaders go into a position not with the end in mind. They're so excited to get promoted and to achieve a level of success, but not thinking about an exit strategy. When I was in corporate America, there was maybe 2 leaders that said to me, I'm always looking for my replacement. And I always thought, why would you do that? But now it makes so much sense to me. They're thinking about how do they exit and hopefully exit rich.
Yeah, you should always have, regardless if you're a leader, even if you're just in a position and have a job, you always need to be thinking about what's next. How do I exit this and move on to something else? Because nothing really stays the same, right? And we always want to grow. You're either growing or dying. There's really no in between.
Right.
Yeah.
The method that you talk about in your book, do you want to share a little bit about it?
The 6 Ps?
Yes, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'd love to. So I can wrap in the top mistakes that business owners make by taking you through the 6 Ps.
Okay, that'd be great.
The mistakes are all throughout the 6 Ps. So number 1, we talked about business owners not planning their exit from the beginning. The second biggest mistake is that business owners have created a glorified job in which they go to work at every day versus a business that actually works for them. So a lot of business owners are working in their business, not on their business. Yeah. And this is a huge, huge mistake. Business owners and leaders too, need to really identify what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, and hire out your weaknesses. Focus on your strengths, hire your weaknesses. And leaders should do that as well, because nobody's good at everything, right? Yeah. And 80% of your results comes from 20% of your efforts. So you really need to take stock of what are my strengths. And it is shocking to me that so many business owners don't really know what that is. So the first P is people. And like I said, you don't build a business, you build people, and people build the business. Right. So we really need to put hire the right people and make sure they're in the right seats. A lot of times we have the right people, but we have the wrong seats, and we're trying to fit a square peg into the round hole, and everybody's frustrated because it's not working. So you really got to identify those skill sets, do testing, make sure you have a good job description, and really analyze, who you have in what seats. And then I always say, ask the who question, Christine. Who opens the doors? Who handles customer service, marketing, legal, accounting? Who handles banking, human resources, environmental, manufacturing, logistics? The list goes on and on. But you got to make sure that you are never next to the who.
Oh, that's so smart.
So you really want to build a business that runs without you. So everybody listening to us today should really take a few minutes and jot down all of those tasks and assign names next to it. And it shouldn't be your name. The business owners need to work on the business, not in the business. And the biggest issue is, business owners are always like, well, if I want it done right, I got to do it myself. And that can't be further from the truth, because business owners make a lot of mistakes because they're trying to wear too many hats and do too many things. And I always say you'll never grow unless you let go of the control. You've got to let go of the control. Absolutely. So the second P is product. And just to kind of give you a little bit of history, I'm going to take you back to 2013 when I wrote my very first book, which was called Sell Your Business for More Than It's Worth. When I did the research for Sell Your Business for More Than It's Worth, I learned that 95% of all startups will go out of business, right? We all know that between 1 to 5 years is the most risky for startups. But when I did the research for Exit Rich, I was flabbergasted to learn that the business landscape has flip-flopped. It has changed dramatically. Now it's only 30% of startups will go out of business.
Wow, I did not know that.
Only 30%.
That's tremendous.
There's a lot of reasons for that. One of the biggest reasons is that a lot of millennials and Generation X are starting businesses, but they're not starting another ice cream store, another coffee shop, or another dry cleaners. And one of the reasons that so many of those businesses were going out of business is because you cannibalize in the marketplace. There's too many of them. There's how many coffee shops do we need on one corner? Mm-hmm. But what millennials and Gen X are doing now is they're actually looking around, figuring out what the problems are and coming up with solutions. And their businesses are solution oriented that are really solving problems. And that's why these businesses are successful. But out of 27.6 million companies, now let me just put this in perspective. There's 30.2 million businesses in the United States employing over half the US workforce. If we lose small business, we lose jobs. We lose spending power. So small business is a backbone of the American economy. So out of 27.6 million companies, those businesses that have been in business 10 years or longer, 70% of them will go out of business.
Really?
70%.
Even though they've been in business 10 years.
Yep. So now you see how it's flip-flopped. Now think about the media. The media talks about the big public companies all the time. Toys R Us in business 75 years goes out of business. Kmart, Steinmart, Pier 1. Disney stores are closing up. GNC is closing down 900 locations. Godiva, our favorite chocolate, is closing down 1,500 locations. Now, what the media doesn't talk about is private businesses because they don't make the news. So private businesses on every street corner in every town in every state across our great nation, these business owners are exiting poor. They're selling for pennies on the dollar, closing their business, or even worse, filing bankruptcy.
Right.
And the number one reason for that is what I call lack of aim, AIM. Mm-hmm. Aim is always innovate and market. You're either growing or dying. Blockbuster did nothing new, and they saw Netflix come, and they sat back and did nothing. They had an opportunity to buy Netflix, and they went out of business. Toys R Us never innovated in 75 years.
No.
So there's a life cycle of a business that's similar to the life cycle of a human. But the second P is product. So product is one of the number one reasons that businesses go out of business, because business owners stop innovating. Business owners are married to their original concept, and they want to keep doing things the way they've always done, especially baby boomers. Right. And so you can't do that because otherwise you're just going to be out of business. So product is huge. I put people first because nothing gets done without people.
Absolutely.
And so I put product second because if you're in a failing industry, a failing product, failing service, then you're not going to be sustainable. So I always tell my clients, ask yourself, is your industry, your product, your service, thriving or dying? Do you have an Amazon? If you have an Amazon, then you need to be selling because you always sell in your prime.
Right.
Like Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
And if you have a Blockbuster, that doesn't mean you just give up, close up shop and go home. I always tell my clients, ask yourself these 3 transformational questions. Amazon did this back in the 90s. Ask yourself, what business are you in? Amazon said, we're in a book fulfillment business. We fulfill book orders. Second most important question is, what do we do really well? What's our core competencies? What do we do better than everyone else? Amazon said, we do fulfillment better than everybody else. The third obvious question, Christine, is what business should we be in?
Yeah.
Should.
Right.
Pivot. So Amazon said we should be in a fulfillment business, fulfilling orders for everybody around the world, not just books. So there's 3 transformational questions transform Amazon from a small book fulfillment center to a multi-billion-dollar worldwide conglomerate that they are today. So business owners get stuck in the transactional.
They do, because they're in their business. They're working in it.
We got to get out of it, and we've got to become transformational. I always say, if you want better answers, ask better questions.
Absolutely.
So that's product. And products, if you're in a dying industry, you really got to transform, Oh, here's another thing too, Christine. So many businesses went out of business during this pandemic because they have one profit center, restaurants.
Right.
They only get paid by people coming in and dining or people taking food to go.
Right.
That's a problem. You need multiple congruent revenue streams. That doesn't mean if you own a restaurant, you go have a car wash. That means if you own a restaurant, think about what's congruent around the restaurant. Maybe an e-commerce site, maybe, a store inside where you're selling recipes and you're selling ingredients and you're selling something unique to your particular restaurant. Emeril Lagasse did that very, very well. Emeril Lagasse's got, he had a huge store in New Orleans that you could practically buy anything and everything. So we need multiple congruent revenue streams. And then the third P is processes.
Absolutely.
And processes are kind of like exit strategy. Business owners don't think about them until something catastrophic happens in their business or something bad happens in their business. And they're like, oh, we need a policy for that. Right. You really should design your policies and procedures from the beginning, but it's an ongoing work in progress. Policy and procedures are never done.
Right.
And
right.
Most business owners get this wrong because most business owners design their policies and procedures or processes around their own agenda versus the customer experience.
Ah.
So a perfect example.
Say that one more time. That's so important.
Yeah. So most business owners design their processes around their own agenda, the owner's agenda versus the customer experience. So I'll give you 2 examples. McDonald's. Did you ever watch the movie The Founder?
Yes. Yes.
Great movie, right?
Yes.
Wonderful movie. So back in 1950, the McDonald brothers said, we want to develop a fast food restaurant because there wasn't any. And we want to develop a fast food system designed around the customer experience. We want our customer to experience 3 things. Number 1, we want them to experience great tasting food that's hot and fast, 30 seconds or less. And they went out to the empty tennis courts. Remember when I took chalk and all their employees and, they kept bumping each other, stepping on each other's toes. They stayed out there all 9 hours until they figured out who's going to take the order, who's going to toast the buns, cook the burger, put the 2 pickles on the bun and give it to them in 30 seconds or less. So even though those processes have been tweaked along the way, you can eat at McDonald's anywhere in the world and get the same experience. It's also why they can fire someone and have somebody replaced within 30 minutes of the drive up because of their SOP checklist.
Absolutely.
So everybody needs to stop and ask themselves, what do we want our clients to experience, and come up with 3 things like McDonald's did. And if you don't know, ask your customers. And here's the problem. Here's why 70% of businesses are going out of business. Because we stop asking the customers, the clients, what do you want? What do you need? How can I make it easier for you to do business with us?
Right.
And the company that makes it easiest for the consumer to purchase products and services is the company that's going to win. Amazon is winning because they make it so easy to practically purchase anything around the world and have it delivered in 2 days.
Right. Right. And sometimes for free, depending.
And sometimes, a lot of times for free if you're a Prime. Yeah, if you're Prime. And so I'll give you an example on the flip side of that. Doctor's offices. What are their hours? 9 to 5?
Sometimes 10 to 4. Right. Yeah.
9 to 4, 9 to 3. Yeah. Banks are 9 to 5. Are those hours designed around the patients experience? No.
Exactly.
And let's say you have a problem with, have you ever had a problem with a company before and you call them and you have to push this number for this and this number and you're pushing, 5 or 6 numbers and you finally get a live person on the phone and you're telling them your whole story, what happened. They're like, oh, hold on, let me transfer you.
Right.
And then you get disconnected
Yes. Yes.
or you got to call back and do it all over again. Their processes are even social media.
Right.
Heaven forbid you don't get hacked. I was hacked twice.
Oh,
And they have no phone number.
right.
And you
Right.
send in requests and it takes them months upon months to fix everything.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we got to get back to what, the most important thing to a business is the consumer, is the client. If we don't have clients,
You have no
then
business.
you have no
You have no
business.
business.
So your processes have to be designed around the customer experience. They have to be productive and efficient because they can save you money or they can cost you money, depending upon how well systemized you are. And then you need to be well documented. You have to have those policy and procedure manuals and those, org charts, and most importantly, those SOP checklists. Because when you go to sell a business, buyers, that's the first thing they're going to ask for, other than financials.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's the third P. And then the fourth P, the most valuable P that will get you the highest multiple, is proprietary. So just to give you a quick crash course on evaluations, for businesses that have under $1 million in EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. And those businesses will typically trade for a multiple of 3 to 3.5. Unless you're a SaaS company. But businesses that have over $1 million in EBITDA will typically start at 5 and go up depending upon the proprietary assets, depending upon the proprietary synergies. Proprietary synergies can raise you from 5 to a 6 to a 10.
Wow. That's amazing.
So there's 6 pillars to proprietary. I'll go through them rather quickly. The last 2 are short. Number 1 is branding. The more well branded you are, the more I can sell your company for, as long as your brand is relevant in the mind of the consumers. Is anybody paying any money for Blockbuster?
No. It all goes back to the consumer experience, doesn't it?
It all goes back to the consumer experience. The number 1 most valuable brand in the world is, do you know?
No.
Apple.
Apple,
worth $359 billion. That's just the brand. That's not cash flow, inventory, assets, real estate, accounts receivables. That's just the brand. So build your brand, build your value. Then the second most important thing is trademarks. Trademark your podcast, trademark your company name, your slogans, your logos, anything unique to you, your USPs. Also trademark your products. And the problem though, the mistake that most business owners make and where they get this wrong is they'll come up with an idea, Christine, and then they'll go to GoDaddy, plug in the name like, yes, we got the .com. And so they base everything on GoDaddy.
Right.
They base everything on that .com. And then they go to their state, Arizona, Texas, Louisiana, wherever, and they get a state trademark, but they never check the federal database. And I've seen business owners be in business for, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and all of a sudden receive a cease and desist letter, and they have to stop using that company name.
Yes, absolutely.
Spend the $1,500 to $2,000, get a federal trademark.
Yes. Yes.
Because you don't want to lose the rights. And, we have a company, and so many people forget about their products, Christine. We have a company that has 12 different products, and each product has a federal trademark. And each product is exclusive to a different retail chain, like one's exclusive to Target, one's in Walmart. So you got to trademark that. Also, patents are big. If you ever watch Shark Tank, they sound like a broken record. Do you have a patent on that? Do you have a utility patent? Do you have a patent?
Right.
We once sold a company for $18 million that wasn't making any money, but they had 18 patents. And then contracts are very valuable. Manufacturing, vendor, distributor, exclusivity contracts, franchisors, they have franchisees. Client contracts are the most valuable of all because buyers want to make sure there's revenue coming in, especially those contracts that have a subscription model with recurring revenue. But here's a mistake that business owners make with contracts. I've never met a business owner that does this right.
Really?
Never. In a 20 something years,
Oh my goodness.
never have the 2-sentence transferability clause. You need that 2-sentence transferability clause that says this contract is transferable upon a new entity.
Ah, key.
98% of all sales are asset sales. And if the buyer refuses to do a stock sale and the clients refuse to sign a consent to transfer, then your deal is going to fall apart. Or let's say you have 2,000 clients. Do you want to go to 2,000 clients to get consent to transfer?
Right, right.
So
Not
this is
realistic.
huge. This is probably one of the most important things. Have the transferability clause, be proactive. Databases are big. Databases, if they've been nurtured properly, if they can be repurposed and retargeted, strategics will pay a lot of money for them. And Facebook paid $19 billion for WhatsApp. And WhatsApp was hemorrhaging money. So we can sell businesses that are not always making money.
Right.
It's all about the synergies. So they had 1 billion users and Facebook knew we can ROI, we can monetize on this.
So that goes back to your innovation, right? It goes back
to innovation. Yeah.
Right.
And it's good that you brought that up because people think of when I got to innovate, I just have to innovate on product, on my industry. No, you have to innovate your marketing. You have to innovate on processes, the way you do things. You have to innovate your customer database, your customers.
Yes.
So there's a lot of different ways that innovation takes place. It's not just on the product you're in.
So there's 2 more P's, but we're almost out of time.
Okay, so I just want to tell you real quick,
Okay.
celebrity endorsements, radio personalities is huge because let's say that you have a radio personality endorsing your product. They can only endorse one diet company, one skincare, one educational platform, because otherwise they lose credibility. Once you have that prime real estate, nobody else can knock you off.
So smart. Worth paying for.
Same thing with e-commerce businesses. Any of the top positions that they have on Etsy, Wayfair, Amazon for their particular niche is huge. Okay. So these are proprietary. Patrons is 5. That's your customer base. 80% of your revenue typically comes from 20% of your clients. The problem is customer concentration. You want to make sure you have customer diversification. Also, if you've been in business 20 years and over, your customers are probably starting to age out. So you have to innovate and rich to appeal to the different generations that can be our new customers. And then profits is the last. The reason why we put profits at the end, because lack of profits is never the problem. Lack of profits is the symptom of not having the right people, not having the right processes, etc.
And people, when we go back to that very first one, people cost you a lot of money in business. To your point, when you have the wrong people in the wrong roles, doing the wrong things every day, costs so much money to a business.
It does cost so much money. And then you got training, you have replacement, you have loss of time, not to mention loss of energy.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
The high cost.
So tell us a little bit about the book launch. When is it coming out? How can people find it?
Sure. So Steve Forbes endorsed Exit Rich, saying it's a goldmine for entrepreneurs as they leave way too much money on the table. Sharon Lechter, who we've already mentioned, is my co-author who wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. She's a CPA, financial literacy expert. And what's nice is she writes the Mentor's Corner from her perspective after every chapter. Plus, as a bonus, her husband's an intellectual property attorney. And then Kevin Harrington, the original Shark on Shark Tank, wrote the foreword. Plus, we got Jack Canfield, Mark Victor Hansen, and some glowing recommendations by some real, successful entrepreneurs. So Exit Rich comes out June 22nd.
Fantastic.
You can go to exitrichbook.com, exitrichbook.com for $24.79, which is less expensive than Amazon.
Yes.
We will email you the digital download immediately, so you don't have to wait till launch date. We'll ship the hardcover to your doorstep for no additional shipping to anyone that lives inside the United States. We'll give you a lifetime membership to the Exit Rich Book Club, where there's video training of me doing deep dives and different techniques, strategies I've been teaching over the last 20 years in the trenches, plus documents to operate your business and sell your business. So we have sample employee handbooks, non-competes, policy and procedure manuals, sample letter of intent. So many business owners have never seen a letter of intent. Letter of intents, purchase agreements, due diligence checklists, closing docs, all these documents to operate and sell your business are at the Exit Rich Book Club, and they're there for your review and download. All you got to do is remove my company name. This would cost you over $50,000 if you want to create all of these documents. I've spent probably over that.
Right.
And documentation is extremely expensive. And then we'll give you a 30-day free membership into Club CEOs, which is an entrepreneurship mastermind, where we help business owners build those sustainable, scalable, and sellable businesses, all for $24.79 at exitrichbook.com.
Okay, so I immediately downloaded when it came out and I saw it was available. And I have to tell you, I couldn't put it down. The book is amazing and wish I would have had it when I started my company 15 years ago. There's so much valuable information that you can't find in one space. It's like so many amazing components all in one piece. One book has everything you need, truly. It really does. Along with the resources that you're giving away as well. So,
yeah, thank you. That means a lot of us. We have a lot to us. We have a lot of case studies where we have a pharmaceutical company that downloaded the digital download and said, Michelle, I downloaded it. He printed it on a ledger sheet and he's using it as a workbook and integrating it into his growth strategy and his exit strategy. And he's hiring us to sell his company between $30 to $50 million. And he said, this is the best business book he's ever read as far as how to build a scalable, sustainable, scalable. And when you're ready, you'll have a sellable asset.
It's end to end, starting and ending. It's perfect. So congratulations on the book. Congratulations on your success. Thank you for contributing to business owners and to leaders and people that are interested in being successful in business. So thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you so much.
It was great having you as a guest today.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. Time flies. We're having fun.
Yes.
Brightworks Consulting hosts this podcast and YouTube channel to spotlight the leadership around the world that is changing lives. Brightworks offers a myriad of consulting services in the public and private sector, to include diversity, equity, and inclusion solutions for any size company. You can find us at www.brightworksconsulting.com. We're honored to have Best Companies AZ as a presenting sponsor for this podcast. Best Companies AZ is your #1 source for regional employer branding. You can find them at www.bestcompaniesaz.com.